Have you ever felt like something is missing in your spiritual journey? Even after reading books, watching videos, or following routines, do you still feel an emptiness inside? Do you wonder if there's something more to Buddhism than just mindfulness, chanting, or temples? Let's take a simple example. Imagine someone walks into a beautiful garden, but only looks at the gate and never steps inside. They think they've seen it all, but the real beauty lies deeper. In the same way, most people only touch the surface of Buddhism. The deeper truths often remain hidden, unspoken, or simply forgotten. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where we explore the forgotten whispers of the Buddhist teachings. If you're someone who seeks truth beyond words, beyond rituals, and beyond what is commonly taught, you're in the right place. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribe. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe to support content that opens new doors of wisdom. Your one click truly helps us grow and reach more people like you. Now let's begin. Buddhism is not just a religion or a tradition. It's a path of deep inner awakening. But over time, much of its original essence got covered under culture, rituals, and formal practices. The Buddha's real path was about looking into yourself, honestly and clearly. He didn't just give teachings, he gave methods to observe life as it really is. But many of these methods were so subtle, so inward, that they were never written down directly. They were passed in silence, through presence, through the gaze of awakened ones. That's why it's called the Untold Path. This series will not give you ordinary Buddhist stories. It will take you where few teachings go, into that quiet space within, into questions you've always felt but never voiced. Stay with us. This path may be silent, but it speaks directly to your heart. The lost teachings of the forest monks. Long ago, when the world was quieter, there were monks who did not live in temples. They lived deep in the forests, under trees, near rivers, and among the birds and winds. These monks followed the same path the Buddha walked, away from noise, away from fame, away from everything that could distract the heart. They were called the forest monks. They didn't care for names. They didn't want titles. They didn't give long talks, but their silence spoke louder than many books. They practiced quietly, and their lives became teachings. Not in words, but in the way they walked, ate, sat, and looked at the sky. Most people today have never heard of these monks. That's because they didn't leave behind scriptures. They left behind a vibration, a presence. They taught without preaching. They realized that peace comes not from collecting knowledge, but from letting go of everything that clutters the mind. One forest monk once said to a traveler, "Why carry so many thoughts when the wind carries nothing?" That one sentence changed the traveler's life. The forest monk didn't say more. He just smiled and went back to watching the sun fall through the trees. That is the way of the lost teachings. Simple, direct, powerful. Not complicated, not confusing. Just like water flowing down a mountain, these teachings find the lowest place and rest there, deep in the heart. Do you know what these monks focused on? One thing: being fully present in every moment. No future, no past, just now. While most people ran behind answers, the forest monks sat still and watched the question itself fade away. Not because they didn't care, but because they knew that in stillness, truth arrives without being called. They watched their breath, listened to the birds, felt the leaves fall, and realized that everything in nature was already practicing the Dharma. The tree didn't rush to grow. The river didn't resist the rock. The moon didn't argue with the sun. Everything moved with ease. That's what they learned to do. Live with ease, not effort. One forest monk once shared a story. He said, "When I first came to the forest, I brought all my books. Every night I read. Every morning I worried about what I didn't understand. Then one day, a squirrel sat on my book, looked at me, and ran away. I laughed. I never opened the book again. From that day, the forest became my teacher." What a beautiful way to learn. What a simple way to live. The forest monks believe that everything teaches you when you stop trying to control it. The sound of rain, the silence between two heartbeats, the movement of a shadow, all of it becomes a lesson when your heart is quiet. And they didn't want followers. If someone came to ask for teaching, they didn't always speak. Sometimes they just invited them to sit, to feel the wind, to listen, to breathe. A young monk once asked his teacher, "Master, what is the deepest teaching of the Buddha?" The teacher pointed to a butterfly landing on a flower. That was it. No explanation, just a pointing. Because truth is not a sentence. It is a moment, a living thing, a breath taken with full awareness. These monks didn't look special. They wore simple robes, ate one meal a day, and walked barefoot. But inside, they were like glowing lanterns, not trying to shine, but quietly burning with clarity. Their discipline was strong, but gentle. They woke up before sunrise, meditated with the sound of birds, and slept when the moon was high. Every act was done with care. Every step was mindful. Even washing a bowl was a sacred ritual. They taught one simple thing: don't complicate life. Watch it, live it, be with it. They didn't chase enlightenment like a prize. They lived each day as if it were already enough. And in that contentment, awakening arrived silently. Today, many people want fast results, quick peace, instant. But the forest monks teach us something else. Go slow, go deep, go quiet. That's where the real answers live. One monk said, to find a way, stop looking. Another said, to hear truth, stop speaking. Their words were simple, but they were like lightning in the dark, brief, but they lit up the whole sky. These teachings were never meant to be sold or shouted. They were shared like seeds, gently placed in open hearts. Some grew, some waited, but all were real. Now, most of those forest monks are gone, but their path still exists, not on maps, but inside you. In every silent morning, in every gentle breath, in every moment you decide not to rush. So next time you sit alone, maybe with a cup of tea or just your thoughts, try to listen, not with your ears, but with your being. The forest monks are still whispering. Their teachings still float in the wind, not as noise, but as peace. You don't need to be in a forest to walk their path. You just need to be still, simple, quiet, present. That's the way of the forest monks. That's the untold path, the silent power of noble renunciation. Come closer. Let me tell you something people rarely talk about. In a world where everyone wants more things, more attention, more comfort, there's a quiet power in wanting less. This is not about punishing yourself. It's not about running away. It's about renunciation, but not the kind you see in movies or hear in stories. I'm speaking of the noble renunciation, the one that happens deep inside the heart. Most people misunderstand this word, renunciation. They think it means giving up happiness. But it's not that. It's about making space. When your hands are full, you cannot receive anything. When your mind is too noisy, truth cannot speak. Renunciation is the art of putting things down, not because they are bad, but because your soul wants to be free. Let me give you a simple image. Imagine you're carrying a heavy backpack every day. At first, you don't mind it. You think it's just part of life. But after years, your back starts hurting. Your steps become slower. And one day, someone asks, "Why don't you put it down?" You hesitate. You've carried it so long, it feels like part of you. But the moment you drop it, you feel light. You breathe deeper. You even smile without trying. That's what noble renunciation feels like. The Buddha was born as a prince. He had palaces, food, music, luxury. But one day, he looked around and saw suffering, sickness, old age, death, and something moved in his heart. He saw that nothing he owned could protect him from life's truth. So he made a choice, not out of fear, not out of guilt, but out of deep clarity. He left not to escape, but to understand. He walked barefoot. He ate little. He slept under trees, not to torture himself, but to make space for awakening. Every comfort he gave up became a door to silence. And in that silence, he found something greater than all riches. He found peace that nothing could shake. But this part is important. He never said everyone must leave home. That's the mistake many make. Renunciation isn't only about robes and alms bowls. It's about the mind. Even a person living in a city with a family and job can live with a renouncing heart. Let's say you wake up and choose not to chase your endless desires today. You still go to work. You care for your family. But inside, you have dropped your need for approval. You're craving for more. You are content. That's renunciation. Quiet, invisible, yet powerful. There's a story. A monk once asked the Buddha, "What is the highest practice?" The Buddha replied, "Letting go. Not the chanting, not the rituals. Letting go. But letting go is hard when the world keeps telling you to hold on. To hold on to money, to image, to status, to pride. The untold path shows us that true strength is not in collecting, but in releasing. Not in winning, but in surrendering. Not in climbing higher, but in sitting still. Sometimes people say, "But I have responsibilities. I can't renounce everything." And that's true. You have duties. But the question is, can you let go inside while still serving outside? Can you do your duty without clinging to the result? That's the renunciation that the Buddha lived and taught. A heart that's free, even while hands are busy. Think of water. When it flows, it doesn't resist the rocks. It finds a way. It bends, moves, and keeps going. That's how renouncing heart works. Flexible, light, not stuck, not holding. One of the Buddha's teachings says, just as a snake sheds its skin, one must shed the layers of attachment. These layers are not only outer things. Sometimes they're ideas about who we think we are, what we think we need, how we think life should be. You may believe, "I need to be perfect," or "I must be respected," or "I can't live without this." But slowly, you see, these are only thoughts. And when you renounce them, your mind becomes as clear as a still pond. There's a power in silence, a power in simplicity, a power in not needing more. But this power doesn't shout. It doesn't shine in crowds. It whispers. It waits. And when you're quiet enough, you begin to feel it. There was once an old monk who lived by a river. He had one bowl, one robe, and a hut made of mud. A traveler asked him, "Don't you miss the world?" The monk smiled and said, "I have the sky, the river, and peace. What more do I need?" That's the power we're speaking of. The modern world says, more is better. But the Buddha's untold wisdom says, less is clearer. When there is less clutter, truth shines. So how do you begin? You don't have to throw away everything. Just start with one thing, one desire, one habit, one attachment. Ask yourself, do I really need this? Or am I holding it out of fear? When you let go of something you once thought you couldn't live without, you begin to taste freedom. And once you taste it, no pleasure can compare. But don't rush. Renunciation is not a race. It's a gentle unfolding, a slow remembering of what truly matters. You don't have to leave your home to find peace. You just need to return to the home inside you. The quiet place where you're not chasing, not proving, not comparing. Just being. And in that being, you will find the soft power of noble renunciation. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. But it changes everything. It makes you lighter. It makes you clearer. It brings you back to the center. And from that center, you begin to walk, not as someone who wants everything, but as someone who has already arrived. This is the untold path, the path of inner solitude and its hidden strength. Come, sit down. Let's talk quietly. No need to rush. No need to pretend. This moment is enough. I want to share something with you. Not from books, not from loud teachings, but from the silence that speaks when the world goes quiet. This is about solitude, not loneliness, but true inner solitude. There is a big difference, and most people do not see it. You see, most people fear being alone. They run from silence. They want someone around them all the time. A phone ringing, music playing, messages pinging, people talking. They think if they're alone, something is wrong. But solitude is not a punishment. It is a doorway, a hidden path, one that very few ever walk. Let me tell you this clearly. The Buddha found his awakening not in a crowd, not in a classroom, not during a speech, but in the deepest silence, under a tree, far from the noise of the world. He went alone. He sat alone. He walked the lonely path because he knew the truth is not in the noise. It is inside. When you learn to sit quietly with yourself, without distractions, something magical begins to happen. At first, it feels boring. Your mind fights. It says, "Why are you doing nothing?" Then your thoughts rise. Memories, worries, plans. But if you just sit, just stay, they begin to settle like dust in water. The mind becomes clear. People ask me, Master, what is the fastest way to peace? I say, sit alone under a tree for 1 hour every day and don't talk to anyone, not even to yourself. They laugh. They think I'm joking, but I'm not. That is the real training. To sit with your own mind and not run away. You do not need to escape to the mountains for this. Even in a small room, even on a rooftop, even in a garden, if you can learn to be fully alone and calm, you touch something very deep. You realize that silence is not empty. It is full of understanding, full of life. Let me give you an example. A student once came to me, full of confusion. He had tried many methods, listened to many teachers, but still felt restless. I told him, go into the forest and sit with one tree. Do nothing. Say nothing. Just watch that tree every day. He asked, but Master, what will that do? I said, you will learn what books cannot teach. A month later, he returned. He looked different. Calm eyes, soft breath. He said, the tree taught me more than any words. I smiled. That is solitude, not isolation, not sadness. It is meeting life directly without noise in between. Solitude is not about hating the world. It is about understanding it better. When you're always with others, you wear masks. You say what they expect. You act how they want. But when you are alone, the mask falls. You see yourself clearly, your thoughts, your fears, your hopes. That is where true practice begins. In Zen, we say, when alone, act as if 1,000 eyes are watching. Why? Because in solitude, you meet your true self. No lies, no pretending, just raw truth. And from that truth, real transformation happens. You may ask, isn't it dangerous to be alone? It depends. If you are escaping life, it is dangerous. But if you're turning toward life, it is powerful. Buddha did not run away. He faced his mind, his fear, his past, and through solitude, he became unshakable. In the old days, monks would live in small huts, far apart from each other. They would meet only once every 2 weeks, sometimes once a month. The rest of the time, they were alone, meditating, observing, walking slowly, listening to birds, watching the clouds. And do you know what they found in that silence? Joy, real joy. Today, people have many friends, thousands of followers, constant updates, and yet they feel empty because they're always outside themselves. True joy does not come from outside. It comes from the deep well within. Solitude is the way to reach that well. Solitude teaches you to listen to your breath, to the wind, to the thoughts that come and go. And slowly, as you listen, you begin to hear a quiet voice inside. That voice does not shout. It whispers. It says, you are enough. That voice is your true nature. But solitude also brings challenges. The mind resists. It wants company, entertainment, noise. That's okay. That's normal. But don't give up. Stay with it. Like training a wild horse, the mind takes time to calm. But once it does, oh, the peace is like still water, deep and pure. In the silence of solitude, you may cry. Let it come. You may laugh. Let that come too. The emotions that rise are not your enemies. They're old guests. They have been waiting for you to stop and listen. When you face them without fear, they pass. Let me share one more story. A woman once asked me, how do I find the right path? I said, sit quietly until the question disappears. She frowned. How will I get an answer then? I smiled and said, when the question disappears, so does the confusion. Solitude clears the dust. Solitude is the soil where insight grows. Without it, the teachings stay on the surface. With it, they go deep into your bones. You begin to see without eyes, hear without ears, know without thinking. That is the Zen way. This path is not popular. It is not noisy. It does not promise instant joy, but it gives you something better, stability, clarity, and strength that does not depend on anything outside. In a world that always pulls you outward, solitude pulls you home. You may be afraid of being alone now, but after walking this path, You will seek solitude like a thirsty person seeks water. You will find peace not in escaping others, but in finally meeting yourself. So sit. Just sit. Even for 10 minutes a day. Turn off the noise. Put aside the phone. Breathe. Watch. Stay. Let the world be as it is. And let yourself be as you are. Solitude is not silence. It is the language of the awakened. And in that quiet space, the Buddha still speaks. Not through words, but through presence. This is the untold path. Walk it, and the truth will walk with you. How the Buddha taught without words. Sit down. Breathe slowly. Let's talk. There's a teaching that does not come through books, not through long sermons, not even through clever words. This teaching flows through silence. It enters when the noise of the mind ends. It is the path the Buddha himself walked, but very few see it. People say, "Teach me, Master. Speak to me." But the deepest truths are not taught by speaking. They're caught, not taught. When the Buddha sat with his disciples, there were times he didn't say anything at all. And yet, they learned the most in those silent moments. Once, the Buddha held up a single flower during a gathering. He did not say a single word. Everyone looked confused, unsure. Except one monk, Mahakassapa. He smiled, just smiled. The Buddha saw him and said, "You understood." That was it. That smile, that moment was a complete teaching. How can a flower be a lesson? Let me tell you, a flower doesn't talk. It just is. It blooms without effort. It gives fragrance without pride. It fades without resistance. It lives fully in the moment. The Buddha, by holding that flower, said everything, but only a silent mind could hear it. Many of us look for deep teachings in big books or wise quotes. But the real Dharma hides in simple things. A breeze, a leaf falling, a cup of tea, or even the space between two thoughts. The Buddha saw these. He lived them, and he pointed to them again and again. But the world doesn't trust silence. It wants explanations. People come to Zen masters with questions. What is truth? What is enlightenment? And sometimes the master just bangs the floor or says nothing at all. Is he being rude? No, he's waking you up. Because truth is not something to be explained. It is something to be seen, directly, without the dust of thoughts in the way. Words create separation. When we speak, we separate me and you. But in silence, there's just being, and in that being, something pure arises. The Buddha knew this. He gave sermons, yes, but he also sat in silence. Under the Bodhi tree, he said nothing. He just watched, felt, understood, and that understanding grew inside him until he saw everything as it is. So many students miss the point because they look too hard. They chase teachings like butterflies. But the real butterfly lands softly on your hand when you stop chasing. This is the untold path. There's a story in Zen where a student asks the master, "What is the ultimate truth?" The master replies, "Have you eaten your ice?" The student says yes. The master says, "Then wash your bowl." That's it. What does it mean? It means wake up to now. Truth is not hidden in another place or time. It's here, in your rice, in your bowl, in your breath. But to see it, your mind must be still. You may say, "But I need a guide." Yes, guidance is good. But a good guide shows you the moon and tells you not to stare at his finger. Many get stuck looking at fingers, books, teachers, ceremonies. But the moon is inside your awareness, pure and full. The Buddha pointed to this again and again. But when people didn't understand, he stayed quiet, because explaining too much would confuse them more. There is wisdom in restraint. Imagine a baby bird inside an egg. If you break the shell from outside, it may die. But if it breaks it from inside, it lives. In the same way, the Buddha waited. He gave you just enough, then waited for the crack to come from inside you. He knew that silence makes space, and space allows insight. When two people sit in silence, without any agenda, something magical happens. Their hearts speak, not through noise, but through presence. The Buddha taught like this. His being was the teaching. So when you sit quietly, with eyes open or closed, and simply breathe, know this: you are walking the path. Not the path of rituals, Not the path of loud chants or fancy robes, but the untold path. In Zen, we say, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. What does this mean? That the truth is hidden in everyday life, in ordinary things. But you must look with fresh eyes. Don't rush. Sit quietly each day. Don't try to force understanding. Let it come naturally. A leaf does not grow by pulling it. It grows by being still, by receiving sunlight and rain. You too must just sit and allow wisdom to rise. You don't have to leave your home or give up everything, but you do have to stop, listen, and let go of the noise inside. That is where the teaching happens. There was once a student who kept asking the master, "What is Buddha?" The master said nothing. The student insisted, "Tell me, please." Finally, the master said, 3 pounds of flax." What? Exactly. He was pointing to something simple, real, ordinary. He was saying, don't look outside. It's right in front of you. The Buddha did the same, over and over. He showed, not told. He let others experience, not believe. So in this part of the untold path, let this truth enter you slowly. Sometimes the best teachings come without words. When a mind is quiet, the heart opens. And in that silence, something ancient awakens. Let that silence teach you. Don't rush to understand it. Just sit. Just breathe. Just be. The forgotten role of dreams in the Dharma. Sit down. Breathe. Close your eyes for just a moment. Now tell me, have you ever had a dream so real that it stayed with you long after you woke up? A dream that felt like it had a message? A feeling? A voice that couldn't be explained? Maybe you saw something. Maybe you felt peace. Or maybe it left you wondering. Let me tell you something simple, yet often forgotten. Buddhism never rejected dreams. It respected them. It looked into them not as random events, but as windows into the hidden layers of the mind. And yet, today, dreams are often ignored, laughed off, pushed aside as nonsense. But long ago, in the days of the Buddha and the early monks, dreams were taken very seriously. Dreams are not just fantasy. They're the language of the unconscious, the part of your mind that you don't control, the part which holds fears, desires, hopes, and sometimes deep wisdom. In the ancient Buddhist texts, there are stories of kings who had dreams and sought the Buddha's advice. There are monks who had visions and dreams that changed their lives. And there are signs, dream symbols, that pointed to karmic patterns or upcoming shifts. Not predictions like fortune-telling, but deep reflections of the mind. The Buddha once said, "Mind precedes all things." Mind is the master. Now if the mind is the master, and dreams rise from that very same mind, can they be meaningless? No, they are not meaningless. They carry messages, but only the quiet heart can hear them. When we dream, the thinking mind sleeps. The judging mind pauses. And what remains? The pure experience. Sometimes peaceful, sometimes chaotic, sometimes strange, but always full of meaning if we dare to look. There's a teaching in Zen. The sound of the bell comes not from the bell, nor from the stick, but from the meeting of the two. In the same way, the dream is not just your mind. It's the meeting of your karma and your current state of being. It shows you something you need to see, maybe a fear to face, maybe a lesson to remember. Let me give you an example. A monk once came to the Zen Master in the middle of the night. His face was pale. He had had a dream that he was drowning in a river. Again and again, he would fall, struggle, call for help. He woke up sweating, terrified. He thought it was a bad sign. The Zen Master just poured him a cup of tea. Then he said, "You are not drowning. Your ego is." The monk didn't understand. The Master smiled and said, "The dream is your teacher, but only if you stop running from it." That's the beauty of dreams in the Dharma. They are not superstitions. They are signals. Even the Buddha's own mother, Queen Maya, saw a powerful dream before his birth, a white elephant entering her womb. The wise men said it was a sign. But think deeper. The elephant was a symbol of strength, wisdom, and spiritual power. It wasn't random. It was the mind giving form to a great future. In the Tibetan tradition, dreams are a part of spiritual practice. Dream yoga is an actual method taught for advanced practitioners. It trains you to wake up inside your dreams, to become conscious while dreaming. Why? Because if you can wake up in a dream, you can learn to wake up in life. Isn't life itself a kind of dream? People chase wealth, fame, beauty, as if it will last forever. But all of it fades. Isn't that just like a dream? You eat in your dream. You feel full. You run in your dream. You get tired. But when you wake up, was it real? In the same way we live, struggle, argue, love, fear. But when we die, what remains? The wise ones say, life is like a dream. You must wake up. So, what should we do with dreams? First, don't dismiss them. Sit with them in the morning. Ask, what is my mind trying to show me? Maybe a fear you avoid. Maybe a desire you're denying. Maybe a truth you're not yet ready to see. Second, record them. Write them down. Slowly, you'll start to see patterns. The symbols may repeat. The feelings may carry lessons. You will begin to see how your inner world shapes your outer actions. Third, meditate. A calm mind sees the dream more clearly, without clinging, without fear, without ego, just awareness. Fourth, trust, but not blindly. Dreams are not always clear. They're like clouds. You must look at them from a mountain of mindfulness. There's a reason why ancient monks used to meditate before sleep, to enter the dream world with awareness, to receive the teachings that only the quiet hours can bring. The Dharma does not only speak through sutras. It whispers through silence, through nature, through people, and yes, through dreams. Have you ever noticed that in a dream, you feel emotions more deeply? Joy feels lighter. Fear feels heavier. Why? Because there is no distraction, no phone, no noise, just you in your mind. That's why it becomes a sacred space, a mirror. And here's a secret. Many enlightened ones use their dreams as tools. They didn't treat them as visions or fantasies, but as part of the path. They would observe what arises. They would understand, and then let go. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, even to dreams. But it also teaches mindfulness, especially in dreams. This is not superstition. This is a forgotten part of the inner path, a part left behind in the modern, busy, logical world. But you, seeker, if you slow down, if you listen quietly, your dreams may show you what words cannot. The untold path of Buddhism is not loud. It doesn't scream for attention. It walks barefoot, softly, through the garden of your soul. Sometimes, it enters your dreams, just to remind you that awakening is never far away. Now breathe again. Close your eyes. Sleep well tonight. Your next teacher might be waiting in your dream. Ancient symbols and their secret meanings. In the quiet moments of meditation, the mind often wanders to symbols, images, shapes, and signs that appear in the mind's eye or in the world around us. These symbols are not mere decorations or coincidences. They carry deep messages from the past, whispered by the sages who walked the path before us. Symbols are like doors. Behind each door, there's a world of meaning waiting to be discovered. When the Buddha taught, he rarely spoke in simple word alone. Instead, he used symbols, stories, and gestures that spoke directly to the heart and mind of the listener. This is because the mind understands more than words. It understands images, feelings, and symbols. Let us begin with one of the most well-known Buddhist symbols, the Dharma wheel, or Dharma chakra. This wheel is often seen with 8 spokes. What do these 8 spokes mean? They represent the noble eightfold path, the steps the Buddha showed us to end suffering. But more than that, the wheel itself is a symbol of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The spinning wheel teaches us about change and impermanence. Just as the wheel turns, so do our lives turn through different phases. Understanding this helps us accept change, not fear it.
But symbols are not just to be seen on flags or statues. They live inside us. When you close your eyes and breathe deeply, the image of a lotus flower may come to mind. The lotus is not just a beautiful flower. It grows from the mud, yet blooms pure and bright above the water. This flower teaches us that no matter how difficult or dark our life may seem, we have the potential to rise above it and shine with clarity and compassion. Another symbol is the Bodhi tree, the tree under which the Buddha found enlightenment. It is a symbol of awakening, stillness, and wisdom. When you feel lost or confused, imagine sitting beneath that tree. Feel the calm and the peace that comes from simply being present. You might also notice the symbol of the endless knot, an intricate pattern with no beginning or end. This represents the interconnection of all things. Nothing in life stands alone. Everything is connected in a beautiful, endless web. When you start to see your life as part of this web, worries about being alone or separate begin to fade. You realize that your actions ripple out and affect everything around you. In old Buddhist texts, symbols also include animals. The lion, for example, represents courage and strength in the face of fear. The deer symbolizes gentleness and harmony. The peacock shows us the power of transformation, turning poison into beauty. These animals are not just stories. They remind us of qualities we can nurture inside ourselves. But the most important symbol is silence. The silence between words, the silence inside your mind, is where true understanding grows. It is in this silence that symbols speak the loudest. When you stop searching for answers outside, you may begin to hear the quiet language of your heart. Many modern people think symbols are old-fashioned or superstitious. But symbols are alive. They carry the energy of the ages and the wisdom of countless generations. When you open yourself to them, they become a bridge between the visible and the invisible, the known and the unknown. Now, let me tell you a secret. The true meaning of symbols is not in a book or in a teacher's words. It is in your own experience. When you sit quietly, breathe, and allow a symbol to come to you, notice how it feels. Does it bring calm? Does it stir question? Does it invite you to be kinder or more patient? This personal connection is the heart of the symbol's power. For example, imagine seeing the image of a simple circle. A circle has no start and no end. It reminds us of the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. But also, it shows us unity and completeness. If you meditate on the circle, you may realize that life is not a straight line, but a circle where beginnings and endings blend into each other. In Zen Buddhism, a circle is called an enso. When a master draws an enso with a single brushstroke, it represents a moment of perfect clarity where mind and body are united. It is both simple and profound. You too can carry this circle in your heart as a reminder to be present and whole. Symbols also guide us through difficult times. When sorrow or fear arises, remembering a symbol like the lotus or the Dharma wheel can bring comfort. They remind us that suffering is part of the path, but it is not the end. Growth, healing, and awakening lie just ahead. The key is to be curious. Don't rush to find a fixed meaning for a symbol. Let it unfold slowly like a flower. Observe it in nature, in art, or in your dreams. Notice how it changes as you change. Many ancient Buddhist sites hold secret symbols carved in stone or painted on walls. Monks use these symbols as teaching tools, sharing wisdom without words. Even today, these symbols carry vibrations of peace and insight. When you encounter them, pause and breathe deeply. Let the symbol speak to you in its own way. Sometimes symbols appear unexpectedly, in a pattern of clouds, a shape in the flame, or the way leaves fall. These moments are gifts from the universe, reminding you that you are not alone on your path. Remember, symbols are mirrors. They reflect your inner state. If you feel restless, you may see symbols of chaos or broken patterns. If you feel calm, symbols of harmony and balance may appear. By paying attention, you learn more about yourself and the journey ahead. This is why the Buddha used symbols so wisely. They cross language barriers and cultural walls. They speak to the heart before the mind can analyze. Symbols invite us to experience the truth, not just think about it. To truly understand symbols, practice seeing with fresh eyes. Each day, take a moment to notice something ordinary and see it as a symbol. A cup of tea, a tree branch, a shadow on the wall. What story does it tell? What feeling does it awaken? Over time, you will find that your life becomes richer and more meaningful. Symbols become gentle guides, leading you back to yourself and the timeless wisdom of the Dharma. In the end, the untold path is not about knowing many things, but about seeing deeply. Symbols are the language of that seeing. They remind us that truth is often hidden in simple things, waiting patiently to be discovered. So walk gently, watch closely, and listen carefully. The ancient symbols are speaking. Will you hear their song? What the Buddha said about energies and elements. Ah, you've come far, dear one. Sit gently. Let the world slow down. Let the breath settle. Today, I shall speak of something very old and yet very alive. Something the Buddha knew, but many forget. The quiet energies that shape us, the four great elements, and the forces we carry within. You see, this body you have, yes, the same one that walks, sleeps, hungers, and laughs, is not fully yours. It is made of earth, water, fire, and wind. Not metaphorically, but truly. This is how the Buddha saw things. And when he looked into these elements, he saw the truth of suffering and the path out. Let me explain slowly. The first is earth. What is earth in you? Your bones, your teeth, your skin, the heaviness of your body. That which resists, that which holds shape. But is it truly you? No. For when this earth decays, you do not remain. The body returns to the ground. The second is water. What is water in you? Your blood, your sweat, your tears, your saliva, urine, and all the fluids. Always moving, always changing, sometimes sweet, sometimes painful. The Buddha said, this too is not you. Can you hold it? Can you stop it from flowing? No, it is not yours. The third is fire. The warmth in your belly, the heat of fever, the spark of anger, the glow of love, even digestion, transformation. This is fire. It burns through food and turns it into energy. It rises in passion and burns out in time. Is fire stable? Never. Can it be held? No, it is not self. And the fourth is air or wind. This is your breath, your pulse, the motion in your limbs, the flow of nerves. Constantly moving. Invisible, yet powerful. Wind moves trees, and it moves thoughts. But you cannot own it. The moment you try to hold your breath, you suffer. Now, listen closely. When the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, he didn't just meditate on peace. He observed these elements in his own body, not with philosophy, but with direct, sharp attention. He watched how earth, water, fire, and wind arose, changed, and passed away. And in that, he saw there is no permanent self in this body, only elements playing together for a short while. This is where real freedom begins. Most people are busy decorating their bodies, feeding them, dressing them, painting them. But the Buddha said, first know what your body is. Know the ingredients. If you mistake this bundle of elements for a lasting self, you will suffer every time it changes. But when you see it as nature, just like trees, rain, and wind, then you're no longer caught. Even pain changes. Even joy moves. Every emotion, every breath, part of this dance of elements. Let me tell you something rarely spoken. The energies inside us are not just physical. The Buddha also knew of subtle energies. The kind you feel when you enter a quiet forest, or when you sit beside someone who says nothing, yet your heart calms. He called it jhana, deep states of mental stillness. In those states, energies become light. The body becomes soft. Breathing slows. Thoughts fade. And the true nature of the mind is seen. But such energies are not mystical. They are natural. Like fire needing wood, these energies arise when the mind is quiet, when desire is calmed, when the senses are turned inward. Today, people speak of chakras, energy centers, and vibrations. That's fine. But the Buddha did not need complicated maps. He taught mindfulness of the body, of elements, of breath. That was enough to see through illusion. Try it now. Sit still. Close your eyes. Feel the weight of your body, earth. Feel the moisture in your mouth, water. Feel the warmth in your belly, fire. Feel your breathing, wind. Observe these four, not with thought, but with presence. Do you notice something? They are all moving, changing. None of them is stable. And yet, this is what we call I. But what is I? Can you find it in earth? In water? In fire? In breath? No, because I is only an idea, a habit of speech, a collection of these elements and memories. When the Buddha realized this fully, he was free. Let's go deeper still. When the body is watched carefully, a new energy appears, clarity. It is like light entering a dark cave. You don't need to do anything extra. Just observe with honesty, with stillness. That alone is a great power. This clarity burns illusions. And what remains is simple, just elements, just energies, just passing forms. A Zen Master once said, "When I eat, I eat. When I sleep, I sleep." This is not laziness. This is wisdom. When the elements are known, life becomes simple. One doesn't cling. One doesn't fear. One just is. That's peace. Even when this body falls sick or begins to die, the wise smile gently. Why? Because they know it is only the elements returning to their place, like water to the river, like fire to the sun, like wind to the sky. There's a hidden truth here. If you understand the elements, you understand the mind. Because the mind, too, is not solid. Thoughts rise like wind. Desires burn like fire. Moods flow like water. Opinions settle like earth. The wise don't fight them. They just watch. And in watching, they are free. This is the untold teaching, not found in sermons or scriptures alone, but discovered in stillness, in silence, in your own body. You don't need fancy words. You need presence. You don't need to climb mountains. You need to observe your breath. Slowly, kindly, every day. This is what the Buddha meant when he said, "Within this very body, with its perceptions and thoughts, I proclaim the world, its origin, its cessation, and the path leading to its cessation." So, dear one, are you ready to see your body not as you, but as a temple of changing energies? Are you willing to sit, observe, and understand without fear? Then you walk the untold path, and step by step, freedom comes. Silently, gently, naturally, just like the elements themselves. The unseen discipline of the inner watcher. Sit with me for a moment. Don't move too much. Just breathe, slowly, gently. Now watch. Do you see how your thoughts are dancing? One moment you're here, and the next you've already gone, thinking about food, about someone's words, about tomorrow, about what could happen, what should have happened, or what never did. This movement inside you, this restlessness, this talking and walking of the mind, that's what the Buddha saw too. And then he simply did something most people never do. He watched it. He watched it without joining it. This part of the path, the one I call the discipline of the inner watcher, is not loud. It doesn't come with rituals, robes, or ceremonies. No one praises you for doing it. No one sees it, but it changes everything. Let me tell you something simple. Your life is not made up of big events. It's made of tiny moments, like when you're standing in line, waiting for water to boil, or sitting on your bed staring at your phone. These little moments, if used right, are golden. Now, imagine if in each of those small, quiet spaces you just watched. Not with judgment, not with plans, but with simple awareness. You begin to see how noisy the mind really is. You'd see how much it wants to escape stillness. But if you remain still, if you don't run after every thought, something beautiful happens. You become the watcher, not the thinker, not the doer, but the one who sees the doing, the one who notices the thinking. That's where the secret lies. Buddhism has many doors, but this door, the silent, watching mind, is hidden in plain sight. The Buddha didn't only sit under the Bodhi tree and gain enlightenment. What he truly did was this. He stopped reacting, and he started seeing, with full attention, with full heart. When you begin this discipline, you won't see results quickly. That's why it's hard. The world teaches you to chase outcomes. This path teaches you to observe, to wait, to watch without interfering. It's like watching clouds. You don't chase clouds. You don't shout at them to move. You just lie down, look up, and smile as they float across the sky. Your thoughts are like clouds. If you chase them, they lead you in circles. But if you just watch, they pass. One Zen student once asked me, "Master, how do I control my thoughts?" I smiled and said, "Who told you they belong to you?" You see, thoughts arise like wind. They don't need your permission. But your mistake is thinking they are you. That's where all the trouble begins. Anger arises, you say, I am angry. Fear arises, you say, I am afraid. But if you just watch, oh look, anger is here. Ah, fear has come. Then you're not possessed. You are present. This watching is not cold or distant. It's tender. You watch with compassion. You see how hurt some thoughts are, how scared some of them feel. You don't push them away. You sit beside them. You breathe. And slowly, you realize you are not your noise. You are the space around it. The discipline of the watcher also changes how you speak. You don't rush into words. You feel their weight. You know their power. Because before a word leaves your lips, you've already seen its roots in your thoughts. In this practice, your silence becomes your wisdom. And people will notice. They may not understand it, but they'll say, there's something calm about you. Something peaceful. That peace didn't come from books. It came from watching yourself burn and not running from the fire. You may ask, Zen Master, how do I begin this? Simple. Start with 5 breaths. That's it. Inhale, exhale. Watch the mind jump. Inhale, exhale. Watch how it tries to pull you into memories or fantasies. But don't go. Just watch. One day, that watcher becomes your center, your anchor, and suddenly, life doesn't shake you so easily. This is the discipline that no one applauds. But it is more powerful than hours of loud prayers. Because here, you face yourself. And when you face yourself, without fear, without expectation, with quiet attention, you begin to meet the Buddha inside you. And this Buddha is not sitting on a cloud. He is sitting right here, behind your breath, behind your thoughts, behind your eyes, waiting for you to notice. Watch closely, my friend. Not just the world, but the one watching it. That's where freedom begins. Sacred friendships, the invisible web of Sangha. Ah, so you've come far on this quiet path. You've walked with questions. You've sat in silence. You've listened not only to teachings, but to the stillness behind the words. And now, we arrive at a very gentle, yet powerful part of the journey, sacred friendships. The Sangha. You see, my friend, even the Buddha did not walk the path alone forever. In the beginning, yes, he sat alone under the Bodhi tree. He watched the stars. He faced Mara. But when he stood up, awakened, he searched, not for followers, but for companions in truth. Let me ask you, when was the last time you truly felt understood? Not by someone who agreed with your opinions, but by someone who saw your soul quietly blooming? This is Sangha. Not just a group of monks in robes. Not just people who go to temples on Sundays. Sangha means those who walk with you inwardly, who remind you of who you are when you start to forget, who do not fix you, but reflect your true nature, peaceful, aware, free. Most people think spiritual growth means going into caves, forests, or becoming completely alone. That's one path, yes, but there is another one. The invisible path of spiritual companionship, where 2 or more sit together, not to teach, not to correct, but to be present, to listen, to hold space. No judgment, no ruse. I once sat with an old monk in silence for 3 hours. Not a single word was spoken, but I left feeling completely healed. Why? Because in his presence, I remembered my own stillness. That is the power of the true Sangha. You may ask, Master, I live in a noisy city. There are no monks around, no quiet friends. Am I alone? No, you're not. The real Sangha doesn't need to sit next to you. They can be in a voice you hear, a message you read, or even someone who appears only for a moment, but speaks to your soul in silence. Think of a candle. One candle can light 1,000 others without losing its own flame. But when you're surrounded by a few other gentle flames, the light becomes softer, wider, warmer. That's what sacred friendship does. Buddha once said, admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie is the whole of the holy life. He didn't say part of it. He said the whole. Why? Because when we walk alone, the ego can become sneaky. It can wear spiritual clothes and whisper, you are better than others. But a true friend on the path can gently hold up a mirror and show us our blind spots, with love, not criticism. I'll tell you a small story. In a forest monastery, There were two monks who always meditated side by side. They rarely spoke. One day, a visitor asked the elder monk, "Do you teach him?" The elder replied, "No, we teach each other. When I forget to breathe deeply, I see him breathing. When I begin to rush, I see his calm. We do not teach, we remind." That's what a sacred friend does. They remind you of your center. But don't confuse this with casual friendship. Sacred friendship doesn't mean agreeing on everything. Sometimes it means saying nothing at all. Sometimes it means walking away with a bow instead of clinging. Sometimes it means holding silence while another cries. One of the most unseen obstacles on the path is isolation. Not the outer kind, but the inner one, where we stop sharing, stop listening, stop reaching out, thinking, "I must figure this out all by myself." That is the mind's trick. The heart, however, whispers, "Find others who live quietly, who carry the same longing." Your Sangha can be two people. It could be a dog who sits with you every morning while you meditate. It could be an old book that has followed you through every city. It can even be the moon, which shows up faithfully every night when no one else does. It's not about number. It's about presence. And let me say this too. If you can't find a sacred friend, then be one. Be the one who listens. Be the one who doesn't give advice, but offers stillness. Be the one who says, "I don't have answers, but I'll sit with you." Sometimes that's all the world needs. Buddhism's untold path is not only about deep insights or mystical silence. It is also about holding one another with gentleness as we cross this ocean of life. Because even the strongest swimmers rest on the boat of good company. And good company doesn't mean perfect company. A sacred friend might struggle, fall, even lose their way. But you walk together, not to rescue, but to remind each other of the light within. And when both forget, the silence itself becomes the third companion, guiding them both. You may think you are walking this path alone, but look closely. Perhaps someone in your life has always been walking beside you, quietly matching your pace, not out of duty, but out of love. You are not alone, never have been. And now, after all these steps, may you begin to recognize the Sangha that has always walked beside your soul, through the quiet eyes of a friend, through the lines of a poem, through the birds that sang when you were sad. This is the invisible web. This is the sacred friendship the Buddha spoke of. And now walk on, with eyes open and heart soft. Your path is still yours, but your silence is shared. That is the secret. That is the strength. That is the untold path. Death, rebirth, and the secret of the in-between. Sit down, friend. Rest your thoughts. Let the wind blow gently across your mind. Today we speak of something that everyone fears, but no one escapes. We speak of death, but not just death. We speak of what lies between death and life, and beyond life again. You may have heard many stories. Some say there's heaven. Some say there's nothing. Some say you will return again. So many voices, so many beliefs. But the Buddha didn't teach confusion. He taught clear seeing. He taught the way things truly are, not just the way we hope them to be. Let's begin not with philosophy, but with something very real. Have you ever watched a candle burn down to its last drop of wax? There's a moment before it goes out. A flicker, a pause, a dance of light. And then silence. That moment, right before the flame disappears, is the space we will explore today. That space between what was and what will be. Death is not the end, but it is not the beginning either. It is a transition, a doorway. The Buddha called it the antrabhava, the in-between state. Most people don't even know this part exists, but it is one of the most important pieces in the puzzle of existence. When we die, we do not vanish. What disappears is the body. What remains is the stream of consciousness, like a river that flows even when the land shifts. This stream carries all the seeds you have planted, your thoughts, your actions, your intentions. These seeds bloom again, somewhere, somehow, in what you call another life. But what happens before that next life begins? That, my friend, is the untold part. That is the hidden chapter, the secret in the silence. The in-between state is not visible to your physical eyes, but your deeper mind knows it. If you've ever woken up from a dream that felt more real than your waking life, you've touched it. If you've ever felt yourself floating in a memory or suddenly sensed a presence that could not be seen, you've brushed its edge. In this state, time is strange. There are no clocks, no sunrises or sunsets. What exists is mind, only mind, and the mind creates its own world. If your mind is peaceful, full of kindness, it sees light. If it is full of fear and anger, it meets shadows, not as punishment, but as reflection. This is why the Buddha taught mindfulness so deeply, not for today alone, but for the moment when the body dies and only the mind remains. If you've trained your mind, if you've learned to stay calm in difficulty, to breathe even when afraid, then even in the in-between, you will not be lost. Many beings lose their way in this space. Some cling to the past life, unable to let go. Some rush forward in craving, looking for the next body. Some wander in confusion. But the wise ones, the trained ones, they rest. They observe. They move gently, not rushed by fear. Do you know what helps most in this journey? Not wealth, not fame, not power, but compassion. A compassionate mind creates a warm path through the darkness. It is like a lantern carried by one who knows the way. This is why the Buddha smiled, even when speaking of death. He knew that love lights the road. In the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, there are detailed descriptions of this in-between state. They call it bardo. But don't worry about names. Feel the meaning. The bardo is not far away. It's right here, between your breaths, between your thoughts. The more you become aware of this space now, the more peaceful your transition will be later. People ask, can we prepare for death? The answer is yes. You prepare not by fearing it, but by understanding it. Every night when you sleep, it's a little death. Every morning when you wake, it's a little rebirth. Watch this carefully. Sleep with awareness. Wake with gratitude. You're already practicing the in-between. There's a story about a monk who asked the Zen Master, what happens after death? The master replied, I don't know. The monk was shocked. But you're a Zen master. The master smiled. Yes, but I'm not dead yet. This is Zen's way of pointing to the mystery. Not everything can be answered with words, but everything can be met with presence. Don't be in a hurry to explain. Instead, practice being with not knowing. In this space, real understanding grows. Remember, death is not an enemy. It is a mirror. It shows you how you've lived. It returns your own mind to you. If you've lived with kindness, with mindfulness, with clarity, death will be soft like a gentle wave. But if you've lived with greed, hatred, and blindness, death may feel sharp like thorns under the skin. Still, no matter where you are not alone. The Dharma is always with you. Even in the in-between, the teachings echo. Even if you forget, your past efforts protect you. One kind act, one moment of truth, one deep breath, taken in awareness. These stay with you beyond the body. So, dear one, don't be afraid of the end. It is not the end. And don't be in a hurry for the next beginning. Rest in the middle. Rest in the breath. Here now, always. Let go of the idea that life is a straight line. It's more like a circle, or better, a spiral. Each time around, you go deeper. Each time, you understand a little more. You begin to remember things your soul has always known. If you live well now, you die well later. If you die well, you are born again in peace. And if you are born in peace, you live again with even more light. This is the silent teaching of the Buddha, the untold path that whispers between the moments. The best way to prepare for death is to live awake. The best way to pass through the in-between is to love, to forgive, to be kind. Train your mind. Tame your anger. Free your heart. And above all, remember this. You are not just this body. You are the space between each breath. You are the stillness between thoughts. You are the awareness that watches gently, patiently, forever. Now breathe. Feel the silence. And listen. The untold path is never far. It is always right here. Awakening without witness. The final chapter of the untold path. Sit down, my friend. Breathe in slowly and breathe out. We have walked far together. You have listened deeply. You have looked within. And now, we arrive at the end of this path. Or perhaps at the very beginning. Let me ask you, who is watching your thoughts? Who is hearing these words? who is seeking peace, happiness, freedom? Is it you? And if so, then who are you? This is not a question for your mind to answer. It is a question to live with, to sit with like a candle in the night. Quiet, steady, alive. All this time, you have walked through many teachings. You've heard about the monks in the forests, the silence of renunciation, the invisible presence of Sangha, the power of symbols, the truth about death and rebirth. You've walked along the forgotten edges of Buddhism. What most never hear, what most never see. But here, now, in this final chapter, I will tell you a secret. There's a place inside you that no teaching can reach. There's a space so quiet, so open, that even the Buddha cannot walk there for you. No teacher can guide you into it. No scripture can describe it. That place is your own awareness. And when you discover it fully, there is no one left to awaken, because the one who is seeking is gone. We call this awakening without witness. You see, most people imagine awakening like a big event, a moment of light, a flash, a story to tell. But true awakening is not like that. It is not loud. It is not something you post on a wall or will tell your friends. In fact, it is the quietest thing in the universe. So quiet that even you disappear in it. Yes, that's the truth. When real awakening happens, there's no one left to say, I awakened. There's just peace, just stillness, just this, whatever this moment is. That's why this part is called the final chapter. Not because the path ends, but because the seeker ends. There's nothing more to search for when you realize everything was already here. Let me give you a story. There once was a monk who searched for 30 years. He sat in caves, spoke to masters, fasted, prayed, meditated. One day, sitting by a river, he dropped a cup into the water. As he watched it float away, something inside him broke, and at the same time, everything became clear. He began to laugh, not because he understood something new, but because he saw that there was never anything to understand. Life had always been complete. He had been complete. Even his search was part of the play. That is what I mean, my friend. You are already that which you seek. You are not separate from the teachings. You are the silence. You are the awareness. You are the untold path. And so, as this series ends, I invite you not to hold on to anything. Not to collect teachings like books on a shelf. Let them go. Let all ideas go. Let even this voice go. Instead, listen to the quiet space within you right now. Do you feel it? That gentle presence that needs no name? That space is always with you. Even in sorrow. Even in joy. Even in confusion. Especially in confusion. There is no final truth. The Buddha never asked us to follow him. He asked us to know ourselves. Deeply. Honestly. Without pretending. Without masks. That's why the Zen path is often full of paradox. We say things like, don't seek, and you shall find. Or the sound of one hand clapping. These are not tricks. They are keys to unlock the tight door of logic so that the heart may enter. And now, I ask you for nothing more but to pause. Can you sit just for a few breaths and not do anything? Not fix, not change, not think, not hope? Can you just be? That is where the real treasure lies. The untold path was never hidden. It was simply overlooked because it is too simple, too silent, too ordinary. But in that ordinariness is great freedom. You don't need to leave your life. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to see clearly, to be fully here. Not in the past, not in the future. Right here, right now, as it is. Before I end, let me bow to you. Truly, you have walked with patience. You have listened with heart. And maybe, just maybe, a seed has been planted in you. Let it grow quietly. You don't need to force anything. The flower blooms by itself when the season is right. And before we part ways, I ask just one thing with all my heart. If this journey has touched you, if it has opened even one small window inside your heart, please support our channel, Wisdom Woven. There's so many views, but only 0.2% of people subscribe. It really helps us when you like, comment, share, and subscribe. We want this wisdom to reach every corner of the world. Your support makes it possible. Now stand up gently. Walk into your life not as a seeker, but as one who has seen. Smile, not because life is perfect, but because you don't need it to be. You are enough. You are free. You are the path, and there is no more need to search. Farewell, dear one. The untold path now belongs to you.